Thanks for tuning in, guys. You're listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg Driver. I'm joined by Rahul Jani and Leon Everett. Let's go! Mid-30s skateboarder, I hope I don't get hurt. Mid-30s skateboarder, I hope I don't get hurt. Hello and welcome to Ace Comicals episode number 97. I'm still in one piece.
Well, I wonder what you're referring to, Greg.
Yeah, so it's just I don't know, like I've been playing Tony Hawk's and there's a song on the soundtrack, Mid-20s Skateboarder.
Yeah, that song makes me feel like shit. Because in that song, he's supposed to be too old for it.
Yeah, but it's fucking hilarious because it's just such a mood. Have you seen the music video as well?
No, I haven't.
Oh, there's a bit towards the end, like it's basically them trying to skateboard and not being as good at it as people younger than them and failing miserably and getting injured. And then like
as a whole
there's another song on the end of it called Blood Clot. And in the video for that song, which is like a short, because the videos link up. So in the video for that song, there's a guy, there's like this injured skateboarders support group or something. And there's a guy handing out flyers for longboards, the safer skateboard. So there we go. Yeah. But yes, we are episode 97 of Ace Comicals. And I have both my co-hosts today. That's Ray and Leon.
Evening, guys.
Radical.
Yes.
Tubular.
Gnarly, dude. Yeah, so, like, what have you been up to since, like, we had all of us on the same, like, cast? Because that's not happened for a long time. I know what I've been doing. I've been reading comics, but I don't know about you two.
Yeah, pretty much, like, regular stuff, watching movies, reading, studying, you know, the daily things. What about you, Rahul?
Since the last cast, not much extra actually. Been playing a game called A Monster's Expedition, which is really cute. It's like a soccer bond block pushing game, and I forget who the designer is, but he's done a lot of these kind of games before, like a good snowman is hard to build, I think it was called. But the reason I got onto this one is because the writing for the game is done by Philippa War, who I used to write for Rock Paper Shotgun, but I know her from the Crate and Crowbar podcast, and that's the just her presence made me want to play that game, and it's exceptionally cute and nice and puzzly without being too stressful. And yeah, that's my latest thing.
That sounds very Pip.
It is very Pip, yeah. It's also very English. Like, it's about a monster walking around outdoor exhibits taken from, like, an old, like a long lost England, which they call England Land. It's very funny, and it's very cute.
Post-Brexit.
I haven't got to any, like, stop putting politics in my games, man. There's none of that yet.
You get to the coast and there's a statue of Boris Johnson half submerged in the sand.
I don't think it's a dystopian future game, Greg. It's too nice for that.
It's not good. It's not a dystopia. It's something that's actually happening, Ray. That's the scary thing. It's like you can't call it a dystopia when it's happening. But yeah, and we're all living through it right now. But that's why it's more important than ever that we enjoy October for what it is, because October's coming this week. It begins. And I've been looking at the Inktober 2020 prompts, and I've been like generally just trying to enjoy autumn, getting into like the spooky season stuff, like reading horror comics, listening to my spooky season shit. Just generally just getting on the Halloween bandwagon because I need Halloween this year. And like, I think we should make it a great Halloween, even if COVID like tries to fuck it up. I don't.
How are you planning on doing that? What are you gonna do? Like,
I don't know. I think like maybe I'm thinking I could organize a Discord party where we watch horror movie or something along those lines. I don't know.
But how about like in your neighborhood at home? Do you think there'll be people doing? Do you often get trick or treaters around in Leicester?
Well, I don't like this is the first year I've done Halloween where I am right now.
Okay.
The last time I lived here was 3 years ago, and we had trick or treaters.
Okay.
So
You
I
get
don't
what-
I don't. I don't know what's going to happen this year though, because I don't know like whether social distancing guidelines is going to allow for that.
You got to wear a mask over your mask.
Exactly. But I don't know, like I'm just thinking like to actually celebrate Halloween and just I'm gonna decorate the house anyway. I'm gonna make jack-o'-lanterns. I'm gonna buy myself some Haribo, and I'm probably just gonna do like maybe we'll organize like a little Discord party and just like watch horror
Sounds
movies or
nice.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Celebrate a Gregmas. That sounds
Yes. And it's a weekend this year as well, which is even better, which means I can get lit. And I've booked time off work as well, so I've got like a long weekend across Halloween, which is nice. But yeah, let's not let COVID extinguish our lanterns, and let's like make the pledge that, you know, even within the even like to the extent that the safety guidelines allow, we should still celebrate and enjoy Halloween, because I think and this goes for any holiday right now. Because I think that it's more than ever we need these things like to kind of like brighten up what's going on this year for a lot of people. Like any holiday, this is like whatever you celebrate, whatever faith, religion, background you come from, any holiday that comes along now, you need to fully embrace it and celebrate it for what it is, and don't let the whole overhanging, you know, like COVID and things like dampen your spirit. Like obviously stay within safety guidelines, do it safely, don't do anything stupid, don't meet up in huge groups or anything like that, but at least, you know, enjoy the holiday, enjoy the celebration, and just get the most out of it. And that's what I plan to do for Halloween.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that in terms of Diwali this year. And it's going to suck not being able to see family, or whether or not I'll be able to see family. I'm like, don't know what the situation is going to be close to the time, but yeah, I do intend to at least do my own little thing at home, not let it just go away because you know, it has to be just the two of us at home. So yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah. I mean, as sad as it might be that you might not get to see family and things like that, I still think that it's important to at least mark
Stay in
the
good
day.
spirits.
Yeah, and stay in good spirits. Yeah, exactly. Other than that, so other than me getting ready for Halloween and sort of like getting my spook on, reading my horror comics, and just generally doing my thing, which is like Halloween all year for me near enough anyway. So I've been listening to, so like I've discovered this thing called, like, because there's a couple of new metal albums dropped in like recent times that I've been like really into. So there's a new Deftones album that dropped this week, which is like, it doesn't slap, it punches, it breaks your jaw. It's amazing. And there's an album which is basically, so Alice in Chains have an album called Dirt, which a lot of you will know the track Them Bones, the single from the album, which was used on the Street Fighter 2 animated movie US soundtrack.
Classic.
Yeah. So what are there's like this collection of kind of like sludge metal, doom metal bands that have come together to cover the entire album, and it's called Dirt Redux. And it's absolutely fantastic because you've got a different band doing each track, and it's just like, it's nice to hear their takes on stuff, and there's some like real like solid covers on there. So I've been listening to that a lot as well. Like there's an awesome cover of Them Bones, an awesome cover of Godsmack, and it's just, yeah, that, I mean, it's a great album anyway. Dirt is a great album. Like not my favorite Alice in Chains albums, because I'm gonna end up mentioning these later on in the cast, because this is like a running theme with like some of the stuff I've got to talk about. I don't know why it is, it just is in my head. But my favorite Alice in Chains albums is like a couple of EPs, which are like pretty maudlin acoustic stuff, Sap and Jar of Flies, which I have on vinyl. But like Facelift and Dirt are the ones that have got like all the absolute kind of like the kind of classics that you end up hearing an awful lot. If you've heard an Alice in Chains track, you've probably heard something off either Dirt or Facelift. So, but yeah, it's nice to have that cover album of Dirt. So other than that, I picked up the 30th anniversary edition of the Silver Surfer Parable book. It's like this oversized, breathtaking thing. It's just like so majestic. So you got this like huge, beautiful hardback edition, which is like oversized, and it's got like huge pages, and it's Parable. It's such a timeless, Parable's such a timeless and wonderful story. Anyways, it's Mobius and Stan Lee, and it just, I don't know. There's just something about this particular Silver Surfer story that just, and it really does actually stand out among other Marvel tales of the time and everything else. And I'm not surprised it won an Eisner at the time. It's a great story. And we know about Silver Surfer Parable. It's a classic. It's like something that is like, it's a known quantity, but it's just nice to have this oversized hardback edition, this beautiful hardback on my shelf with this like dust cover that folds out into a huge poster. And I was just kind of like poring over it, and this oversized pages, they give the story and they give the art more space to breathe. And it's beautiful. So yeah, that's just there's that, and then like what else? X-Men, because like this is the thing now. Like comics is like back in full, so there's like all this stuff just hitting all at once. Like so, the stuff that's going on in the X-Men books right now. Like I've been catching up because there's this event coming up called X of Swords, which is like. The easiest way for me to explain X of Swords is to explain to you. Have you ever watched Dragon Ball Super?
I've never watched Dragon Ball, which I've never admitted on this cast before.
Right, because Dragon Ball Super has this kind of like tournament arc where they pick champions for each dimension. Like different dimensions, pick champions, and then they go fight it out in a big tournament somewhere in space. And like they have a team of champions from each dimension. And what X of Swords is 2 different dimensions with teams of champions that are going to fight it out. And it's pretty epic. And it's I mean, like, I love X-Men, and like this is the best that X-Men has been for decades. Like, it's just so nice to be able to be so excited for X-Men books and to be able to catch up on them and to be getting X-Men books weekly and everything, and to enjoy these characters again in such a way. It's just really cool to have that there, and you know. Like I can't describe the feeling, but yeah, it's really cool to be able to enjoy X-Men this much again. And when X of Swords is concluded, I would like to be able to discuss it on the cast, because I want to come back to it and discuss it. There's another thing I want to come back to and discuss. I was going to talk about issue 1 today, but I feel like I want all 3 of it. I feel like I want the whole thing available before I talk about it, and that's Batman 3 Jokers. Because I picked it up thinking it might not be that great. I know, I mean, and it's got a great team behind it, but I picked it up thinking, because it's Jason Fabok and Jeff Johns, and I picked it up thinking that maybe it's going to be like, my initial thoughts were, am I going to be rubbernecking when I buy this? Am I buying this just to see like a 3 ambulance pile up or something? But then like I was reading it, and I absolutely love it. Fell in love with it. I mean, I'm biased because I'm a Batman fan anyway, but like that is going to be something I want to talk about at some point as well, when all of it's available, because I think it's a great book, and it just, I don't know, it's just like a classic Batman, like one of those classic Batman stories that you just get really into, that kind of like grip you. And yeah, and then other than that, there's a book called Stillwater that I checked out, which I want to wait for more of that to become available before I talk about it, because that's really cool. So premise is 2 guys go on a road trip to a town because they get, one of them gets left something, or gets like kind of like mentioned in the will of a dead relative, and supposedly like has something to collect, like a fortune maybe, or a house. They don't know. They just know they've been in the will because the lawyer turns up to tell them. But in the town of Stillwater, people can't die. And the first issue is mainly these guys learning that. I mean, they're not very. I don't think this guy's a very nice guy. I don't like him. I don't like the main character. I don't like his friend either. They don't strike me as likable people. And they're traveling to this town. It's mainly just the road trip in the first issue, and them getting to Stillwater, and then learning that that people in Stillwater can't die because a kid just jumps off a building in front of them, and then just gets up to walk away. And it's Chip Zdarsky, Ramon K. Perez, and Mike Spicer. And when there's more of that available, I'll be able to talk about that in more detail. But it's one of those things where issue 1 isn't enough so far. I need more of it, and then I can actually like proper go off on one about it. Oh yeah, and movies wise, I checked out The Dark Phoenix because it's now on Disney, and all I have to say about that is, what even the fuck is that movie?
It's amazing, right?
It's battling for Suicide Squad for its place in the bin water at the bottom of the dumpster. It really is. It's like,
wait a minute. They had a second chance to do the Dark Phoenix story on the silver screen. They even had the same writer. This time he was directing it. I think they nailed it. Like two turns, nailed it on the second one.
Yeah, it had everything going for it, didn't it? I still haven't got around to watching it, and by all accounts, I don't think I will. But,
yeah, don't. No, it's not.
yeah.
It's like, because it's just so disjointed.
I think
And, I mean, I feel like there's probably like what makes me hurt the most is I feel like there's probably a really good film in there somewhere.
Yeah,
But they just
the
fucked
problem
up so much. It's
I
like,
have is that they generally have quite a good cast who they continually waste since First Class, and the time skipping thing doesn't make sense. They've been doing from movie to movie, but all that divorced. After the absolute garbage that was Apocalypse, they should just call it quits or whatever and just gone home, let Disney swallow them up and whatever happened. But the fact that Simon Kinberg was able to convince all these people to come back, like I'm sure Jennifer Lawrence, when she signed her initial thing for First Class all the way back when she hadn't won her Oscar yet, she doesn't need to be doing these movies. Oscar Isaac had just blown up after he had signed on the dotted line to be in the Apocalypse movie. So you can see why he was stuck in there, and thankfully he knows not better to come back for any reason. But there's just no reason for this movie to be there, and it's not even to say like so bad it's offensive. It's just a nothing movie. Like, you'll gain or lose nothing watching it. You'll just be in like a void of time. Like the only things I remember from that movie are stuff from like the trailers, and I've seen the movie. So yeah, it's just, don't even be curious about it. It's not even a drunk watch or anything like that. It's just a complete waste of time.
honestly, don't, man. Yeah, just like, it needs to get in the bin.
Yeah, I've no compulsion to get to
it's
it.
just like, yeah, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, I think, I mean, I don't know. To like, in all fairness, the X-Men timeline is a mess anyway. So anyone that can make sense of that or fix that, like fix that into a 2-hour film, or fix even part of that into a 2-hour film in a coherent way.
I don't even need stuff to be canon. Like, it doesn't have to flow from one to the other. It just needs to be entertaining and like true to the characters. And like we always have Logan, so we can always look back on that, right?
Exactly.
The reason I bring that up in between the things, because I think that decision they've done has actually hurt the movies, because at least with the original Fox movies, it was all around the same time, like turn of the century. But by doing a movie set in the 60s, which is awesome and cool and one of the best in the franchise, and then jump into the 70s, okay, you can feel that time gap, and they get to do like more, I guess, Vietnam stuff or blah blah. But then jump into the 80s just because the 80s are in now, and then jump into the 90s because now that our 90s are in. What it does is that you don't really get any, not character development or growth, but you just have weird things where the characters just seem to like freeze for a decade, and then when they unfreeze, when you watch the movie, they're the exact same people, and you don't really feel any chance for them to like change or like mature at all.
It's like they're trying to adapt something that's like borderline unadaptable because it's so convoluted and spirals in on itself so many times.
But I think that like there's so many things that have been deemed unfilmable and stuff, and we've got them. We've had them. We got our Cloud Atlas movies and such, English Patient and blah blah blah. It's like, just write a better movie.
Yeah.
Like, chop out the bits that just don't work, and then having the bits that do work, and do something fun and original.
They could have done a really good Dark Phoenix film.
Easily.
Yeah, I mean,
the source material's all there. Like,
exactly.
there's
Yeah.
a wealth of ideas to crib from.
Yeah. There's like, you should just read the trade. It's just, but yeah, I mean, they could have done it, and they could have done it really well, but they didn't, and yeah, so don't watch it, please don't. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything that like I've been doing or into this past couple of weeks. I've not finished Tony Hawk yet because I've discovered that I actually suck at it.
In contrast, I've 100%ed it now.
I have. Rahul's out here doing like 1,000,000-point combos, and I'm struggling to break 100k. But that's another thing.
It all just came flooding back. Like, my fingers are flying over it. I've not felt this good at a game in like a decade. It's great.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish. There's only one game I've ever had that power with, and that's Sonic the Hedgehog. The Sonic Mega Drive games. That's it. That's the only game that I can truly say I have that kind of mastery over.
That's that dark power.
Yeah. So, shall we move into today's comics? I think we shall, shan't we? Yeah, so we are starting today with a comic that we have been lucky enough to get a preview of, because this isn't actually in shops until October 21st this year, and this is GIGA.
Giga.
Giga. I like saying Geiger because I think Geiger sounds a little bit more anime. But I don't know, that's just me. In my head, I'm like, Geiger. Like, I'm imagining some kid just shouting Geiger, and then this big robot comes to help him, comes crashing out of the ground. Like, I don't know, like summoning it, some kid with spiky hair. I don't know.
That definitely sounds better, but I'm reading it with Giga, because, like, I'm thinking, like, gigawatt, gigaton, whatever.
Yeah. So the deal with this is it's Vault Comics, and so what I'll do is I will read you the blurb for Geiger, Jigger, like gigantic. What do you think, Ray?
That makes sense. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah,
it sounds weird as a title on its own, though.
Giga. Yeah.
You wouldn't shout that to the heavens and expect anything to drop out. But...
No, I think, you know why I think Geiger and then I imagine anime stuff is because Geiger's so close to Guyver.
Geiger sounds cool. Let's go with that, Geiger. Let's do it.
Nobody knows why the skyscraper-sized mechs known as Geiger fought their bitter centuries-long war. All they know is that when the fighting finally stopped, the dormant Geiger became humanity's new habitat and new gods in one. When disgraced engineer Evan Calhoun finds an apparently murdered Geiger in his society, and the fascistic tech-centered religious order that controls it are rapidly thrown into chaos. From writer Alex Packendale of Friendo, Turncoat and Incursion, and rising star John Lee, comes another Volt and White Noise partnership about what happens after the mechs stop fighting. So, I mean, where to begin with this? Is mech punk already? Are there any other good examples of mech punk in this way? Because I'm coining that. I'm coining that term, and I'm going to try and use it whenever I can because it's the best way I can think to try and describe this story. To be honest,
yeah, I think mech punk works, especially for like the latter part of this comic, which I'm a little bit disappointed that it is mech punk, because I think I liked where it started, where it's like nature mech or something, where it's like all the mechs are like a spiritual part of the world that they exist in, but I guess that all falls apart, and that's part of the plot.
Mech myth, mechology.
Biomech.
Biomech is cool. It's not really because the mechs themselves aren't really bio, but like they seem to fit into a natural part of the world. Like there's murals and stuff, like ancient drawings of the mechs from ancient history and stuff, which is very cool.
So Gaia punk.
Yeah.
Gaia mech, Gaia. Giga Gaia.
Mechology.
All of this. We'll brainstorm this later.
this mechological tale of this mech punk mechological tale. because they have this like rich mythology that they subscribe to. I like puns. So if mech punk wasn't already a thing, then I guess this book is making it a thing. This book is defining it, and the concept I think is pretty cool. I think it's a brilliant concept. I love the design of the giant robots. Like, they look really cool, and you know what? Like, even the whole concept actually of these giant sentient robots that are ancient, that are kind of revered in some way, or worshipped, or give life to other life forms. Kind of reminds me of the Titans from Transformers. So these gargantuan robots that transform into cities or vast starships for other Cybertronians or Transformers. So, like, examples of which characters like Fortress Maximus, Trypticon, or Metroplex. So I don't know if you've ever seen these, like, you must have seen them, like the biggest toy. When you were a kid, they would have been like the biggest Transformer on the shelf in the shop. And like, it turns into a big starship, but it also turns into a base.
Cool.
I actually have a couple of them. I've got Metroplex and I've got Scorponok on my shelf. But yeah, I mean, they're kind of like, I think Scorponok counts as a Titan, the Generation 1 Scorponok. I think it does, 'cause it turns into a base type thing. But yeah, this is like, they turn into like cities or things for other like Transformers, which is like a really cool concept. So like, part of Autobot City is made up of like a giant robot, which is cool. But yeah, the designs of these robots and the designs of them as kind of like an ecosystem for humans to live and survive in, and like this symbiotic relationship that the people have with the machines. So this is like the thing that I thought was really cool. Like, they let the people live in the machines because the machines let the people live inside them because the people maintain them. Kind of like we have good bacteria in our gut and drink Yakult to subsidize that.
Yeah, I liked that early conversation. Yeah, I really like that early concept with like him, the acolyte or the preacher or whatever, and he asks him a question like, "What do you think our purpose is with these machines?" And apparently it's like what's the word? Like, going against the doctrine to even bring up the idea that we're the variant of bacteria for the mech, as bacteria for us.
Yeah, El Casai Immunitas or something like that.
That's the one. That's what we are.
Yeah.
Bifidus like digestivum, or one of those things, one of those marketing terms. That's what we are. That's what we are to these mechs. And like, I like that concept. Like, you know,
did you call him an acolyte or a Yakulyte? Because I said Yakult, and it just sounded very similar.
I heard Yakult.
I'm gonna go with that. I said Yakulyte, but I totally didn't. But it's super clever. So let's pretend like I said that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so basically we're Yakult for robots in this world. It's the easiest way to explain it.
Well, that's what some people think we are in this world, but that seems to anger the priests of the maintainers of these robots. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's the crux of a lot of religions out there, isn't it? That it's like, you can, I mean, yes, we're inferior to this thing that we worship, but also we're not that inferior. Jeez. You know?
Yeah, we're not just a mechanism for their health.
Exactly. Yeah. But so they have this like symbiotic relationship with the robots. I really want to explore that more, actually. That's the thing that hooked me into the book and that I enjoyed the most. This whole kind of like ecosystem, mech punk ecosystem, we'll call it. And there's some really, really cool designs here for the mecha and like mechanical elements, and the art in general is actually pretty cool. Like, the level of detail with the robots and things, I think is what impressed me the most on these pages. Like, these giant, vast robots, these machines, and like the level of kind of thought and design that goes into the environments of these people living inside the machines. Like the level of imagination behind that, because like, what's happening is we're inside the machine with the people at certain points in the book, like panel by panel, and we are seeing what looks like an abandoned temple, and then when you zoom out, that's actually just like 80 square meters of a chest plate. It's fantastic. I love it. Like, the level of kind of like, I don't know, imagination and design behind that. Cool.
And the sense of scale that comes from that is really well expressed, I think. Because
exactly.
I was trying to picture like how it's really hard to. I felt like it's really easy to abstract the size of a human versus the size of a robot, and like not have them join up, but like in the way that I think Pacific Rim did really well. This is finding ways to like measure up humans against the like gargantuan size of these robots. And like the temple you were talking about just now, is it turns out to be the head of like one of these dilapidated robots, and like that's when it put that sense of scale into perspective. I thought like there's some very cool touchstones into making you realize, oh, it's actually kind of smaller than you realize, but that's also huge. It's not like mind-blowingly big where it would be impossible. Like there's some realism to it, which is interesting.
Without getting like too deep into like spoiler territory, because this is a preview, there's some awesome themes in here of like loss of religion, like questioning of faith and things like that. There's a murder mystery, and it's all built around these GIGA or GIGA, like whole societies dependent on them and interpreting their presence in different ways, which is really cool. And I think it's just like a vast thing that you can explore, and it's quite a exciting, different concept. I don't know what you think about that.
So I mostly agree with everything you've said. I think the art style is beautiful. Like I love this vibrant, bright, colorful, naturalistic, and like sort of steeped in nature initially. And then the mech punk sort of tone that comes a little later on in this issue. I really love it. And the theme or the idea that we have this symbiotic relationship with these robots, I'm really into. Where it sort of lost me was when it started introducing all these different factions and like different I don't know, like belief systems, and I think it was just all a bit too overwhelming, a little bit too quickly, and it's a lot of information thrown at you in the first instance, and I feel like I just don't really know where it's going yet. But I'm being drawn along by like the style. I really like the characters. We didn't mention like we didn't really talk about the main characters, and I think maybe that's part of the problem. Is I don't really feel super connected. I like the fact that the character is a young person of color who is in a wheelchair, but that's like a bullet point of who he is. I don't really know much more about him other than those aspects of like his being, but then that he's allied with the robots, and he has this like particularly out of the box view of how to interact with these robots, right? Without giving too much away. But I don't feel super connected to it. I just like that he exists in this story, and that's kind of enough for me for now. But I want to see that developed later on.
Well,
I was also really taken in by how sudden the violence, like the fact that it even existed in a comic that looked quite cartoony, and then the the depth of the violence that's happening in this, and the fact that it has meaning and it's not just gratuitous gore, but it's also quite dramatic and violent. It was wasn't expecting that. There's some really interesting touches for like revealing information early on that then gets clarified a little bit later in the book, so you get to see the same panel from a slightly different perspective again. Like I thought some of that stuff was really interesting, and I hope they continue to do that, because those are the things that I latched onto and felt a connection with. But all the exposition and stuff I just found a little bit too overwhelming, and I don't really know what the state of the world is. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what they believe in. And
that's the hook for me, because that's what I want to know. I want to know about all these different factions that have different ways of interpreting the presence of these GIGA and things like that, GIGA. And all of this stuff. Like that's the thing that kind of like draws me in, keeps me coming back for more. Because that's the bit that I'm interested in, and I'm interested in these like cool mech designs and things like that, and also like you were saying, like how it went from like 0 to 100, and the how colorful everything is as well. When you were talking about how colorful everything, I there's like a kind of like almost like they've kind of like seeded it with a kind of tribal aesthetic in a way. Yeah, which is really cool. But yeah, I'm into it. I'm down for it, and I'd recommend it. And I think you should go out and pre-order it. And that drops into shops on the October 21st, 2020. So I'd look out for that, or maybe ask your local comic shop, your LCS, if they can order that in for you. And that is credits wise. So that's writer Alex Packendale, the artist John Lee, colorist Roshan Kuchuriano, and lettering by Aditya Bidikar. Editing by Adrian Vossel. And yeah, so on from there, we are moving on to a book that I read, which is a book called The Autumnal, which is something that I've been seeing a lot of buzz about on Twitter, and it got me very excited about it because it's so this is another one. So Vault are doing this thing called Nightfall, which is like this annual kind of like event where they release comics, horror comics, every year, and it's like an autumn thing for them, which I love because it's just so cool. And this is where the plot came from. We talked about a book called The Plot on this cast. The Plot was a Nightfall book, and this next one that I'm about to talk about also happens to be a Nightfall book. And this is a book called The Autumnal. So, what I will do, just get you the blurb. So, following the death of her estranged mother, Kat Somerville and her daughter Sybil flee a difficult life in Chicago for the quaint and possibly pernicious town of Comfort Notch, New Hampshire, from NY Times bestselling author Daniel Kraus of The Shape of Water, Trollhunters, and The Living Dead, and rising star Chris Sheeran comes a haunting vision of America's prettiest autumn. And it is a very, very, very pretty autumn, I have to say. So I live for this stuff. It's a slow burn horror story with a reverence for autumn and a celebration of all that autumn is. I love the autumnal stylings and the crisp colors throughout the comic, like the cool lines, like just pervasive burned oranges and reds, just like in backgrounds and stuff. Like it fully sells the beauty of autumn. Like every panel you look at, there's kind of like some like brisk looking, the weather, like it's just that kind of like that perfect autumn weather where it's like a brisk sun, like a brisk weather with a sunset, or like the sun's rising, and you know the such beautiful leaves and trees. Like maybe the trees are too beautiful. Like there's also this whole thing with themes of new beginnings coming from death, and new beginnings facilitated by the death of the old, kind of like seasons where like you go from autumn to spring with like a patch of death and darkness in between. And I don't know, like that is good. That feels good to me, like to see that. And like there's a picture of a Stephen King first edition in it. So they like in the beginning of the book, there's a panel where they go, one of the characters, Kat, goes to the library to pick up a book for her daughter on the way to a meeting with the principal because her daughter's been fighting in class. And basically this is the thing, like they're about to skip town. So this is like a meeting with the principal after school, and she's going to take the kid and they're going to skip town. And she picked up her daughter a first edition of The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. And it's like a proper like the cover is like they've perfectly replicated a first edition cover. So they've just stolen this first edition Stephen King from the library, but let's not split hairs about that. And yeah, I thought that was really cool when I noticed that. That was like something that I was like, oh, awesome. And like this mother-daughter duo, like they're both like tough, like they take no shit whatsoever. The daughter is like, you know, getting into fights and things because she just doesn't take crap from anyone, and she's like 8 years old, I think, in the story, but she's like she's just like she's been taught well by her mother, like do not take shit from anyone kind of thing, defend yourself, stand up for yourself, which I really like. And Kat Somerville's a really cool character as well. So they get on the bus and they head off to this little town, and it's just, yeah, from there onwards, it's just basically like a reverence for autumn. And then the final panel happens, and like there's like a slow burn to the reveal of what's actually going on in this small town as well, through the use of like children's rhymes and chalk graffiti on the pavement and things like that, which I quite like. So yeah, it's like these panels have like painted edges as well. Like the whole thing smells of cold air and bonfires, and these panels have got like these rough painted edges. It has like a strange rough quality that it actually lends to the book, and it works to me for the whole ambience and the mood that it's trying to sell. And it does that like so successfully. I think the word I'm looking for actually when I'm talking about like rough and things like that, it's not rough because it's not rough. It's deliberate and designed that way, and it's beautiful. But I think the word I'm looking for is grunge, which brings me full circle back to Alice in Chains and Sap and Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains, because that's like the specific mood that I get from it. It's the same as the music that I enjoy. And I think maybe that's just me with my taste for maudlin acoustic rock, but whatever. Yeah, and inside within the panels, there's like bold colors with like a stark contrast, and it has this quality to it with like shadows and shapes that seem to kind of like pass over the characters in the way that it's colored, and almost like light coming through leaves, I guess, for me. So, you know, like when you stand under a tree and you've got like dappled light coming through leaves, and some of it's translucent, some of the leaves are translucent, some of them aren't, and they're casting like varying hardnesses of shadow over whatever's beneath.
Yeah.
And it kind of has that kind of air to it, which I kind of like. It's possibly done like that on purpose to mirror leaves and the shadows that leaves might cast, because of the whole theme of the book. Yeah, the build in the first issue is amazing. Exactly what you need for this time of year. Leaves dancing across the page in certain places as well. So like as you go through the book, you've got pages where like over the top of what's happening in the page itself. So you've got like panel by panel, and then over the top of that, you've got a leaf that falls from the top panel all the way to the bottom and then lands on the pavement in the last panel. And it's like the impression that these leaves are falling as everything else is happening, which kind of like gives you like a real sense of time and everything else, and really puts you there. Yeah, there's something really weird about these trees in this town, because they're like really beautiful trees, and apparently they grow nowhere else. And the chill really creeps up on you through the song that the songs that these children are singing, and is like, it's all seeded in there from the beginning when Sybil compares her mother's black eye to the shape of a leaf that she finds on the ground. And all of a sudden that leaf is kind of like snatched out of her hand by some guy who's raking leaves up. And he's like, don't do that. And he's got like this, then all of a sudden he kind of like changes tone, and he's got like this creepy wide smile. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't realize. I just, you know, it's something weird about these leaves. Maybe, maybe you shouldn't touch them. But yeah, like this book's fixation on flora is just like there, start to finish, and it's great. I love it, and I love where this is going, and I just want to see more of this kind of like this. I want to see this kind of like this horror unfold with this whole thing with these trees and the plants in this town, and what's happening with, especially with the final page as well. Like when we get to the final page, and we've got this like that reveal on the final page, like, wow. I'm not gonna I want to talk about it because it's amazing. It's an amazing page, and it's an amazing piece of full page work, but I don't want to talk about it because doing that would completely spoil the first issue for you, and you need to read it. So yeah, you have to check this out. You really have to. And like, parting thoughts on this, like, have either of you ever looked up at the silhouette of a tree and seen like a circulatory system or a central nervous system instead?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like when you look at a tree, like in the autumn, like a winter evenings, like you look up against the dimming light in the sky, and you just see veins and capillaries like spreading out, and it's just like black veins and capillaries spreading out against the night sky or against like the dusk, and it's just like really fucking unsettling. Well, this book taps into that.
That's not, especially being like a city kid. Instead of the moon, it was always like street lights blasting through, causing all that.
Yeah. But like when it's not even, I mean, like that point before it even hits like where it's dusk, so there's still some light in the sky, and you look up through the like branches of the tree. Like I used to do it on the way home in the car when I was like in the car with my parents. I'd be looking out at trees, and I would imagine, like, I just used to look at that. I just used to see like diagrams of circulatory systems when I used to imagine that maybe there's a heart inside that tree pumping away. Like imagine that, like a kind of like the tree's actually like screaming because it's stuck in the ground and it can't move, and it's like growing upwards and outwards, and it's just like this circulatory system with a heart in the center of it that's just kind of like stuck twisted in place.
You're describing like a tortured ant or something.
Yeah, maybe I am. But yeah, this is just I don't know. That's just me and my weird imagination. But yeah, that is the Autumnal, and that is another one on Vault Comics, and that is available now because that came out this week, 23rd and the 9th. That is art by Chris Sheehan, writer Daniel D. Krause, colors by Jason Wordy, letters by Jim Campbell, and we've got design by Tim Daniel as well. Tim Daniel did a lot of work on this. So yeah, that is one to check out for this time of year. It is absolutely perfect for this time of year. So it's something that you have to get your hooks into because it's great. On from there, Leon.
Yes, I'm going to talk about a comic that I read recently called Big Girls, and this is Big Girls, published by Image. It's written and illustrated by Jason Howard, and the lettering is done by Phonographics. So, Big Girls, the best way to sort of explain it is it's like Neon Genesis Evangelion / Pacific Rim meets Attack on Titan with a hint of Death Stranding's lore. And what I mean by that is at some point in the past, there was a calamity. The lay people, normal people going around, they have no idea what caused it. But it could have been science testing or changes in climate, who knows? But what happened is that it started to turn people into monsters. And we're not talking about like the monster who can fit under your bed. We're talking skyscraper tall, giant beasts who basically laid waste to every metropolitan area they could get their hands on. Fast forward now to the present, and you have a team of operatives who work to protect like what's left. I mean, at this point, don't know how big and vast the world is of like survivors and stuff, but there is a protected city that they refer to as the Preserve. And inside the Preserve, they kind of act quite authoritarian, where they keep a strong eye on everyone, and everyone's under watch because pregnancies need to be registered now, because someone might have a child and not report that they found out that their kid is a monster. And so that's where like all the sort of references I was coming to, because you have this like set city which can be beset at any times, which is super Ava, because like the capital of like operations is right there. Everyone's trained inside, kind of like Attack on Titan style. And the Death Stranding part comes from at the start of the game, they tell you that after whatever's happened in the past of that world, when people die, you need to get rid of the bodies and get them away from population, because the death of people puts I can't remember all the Death Stranding lingo at the moment, but it puts like a thing into the air that attracts like beasts from like another dimension or whatever, and they beset. So that's why if say someone committed suicide and you didn't know, they'd be causing a big risk, because in 24 to 72 hours their like embers or whatever could attract people to the city. So you have this whole setup, and there's like an extra wrinkle. And what it is that part of this team, which is like normal sized people, they go around doing like the grunt work and the detective stuff. But the last line of defense against monsters appearing in the city or trying to attack the city, you have giant women, or rather the big girls of the title. And what's revealed very early on is that this I was going to call it a virus. It's not really that, but this thing that happens, it only mutates males, whereas women that are affected with it, or females that are affected with it, they just get the large stuff, but they don't get the mutation part. So they are like tossed into basically being human mechs to fight off the monsters. And as with all these types of things, there's lots of questions about your own humanity and how far you're going to protect everyone, and all those things. And there's loads of like relationships in the background to do with like who knew who this person when and blah blah. But what it really works well, like doing in its first issue, is that I think it quickly sets up this world and sets the stakes like really quickly. And there's like a lot of like hints in there about something deeper, and even just the general meaning, like the idea that like only boys turn into monsters, something. There is like in canon or like diegetic commentary on like male toxicity, but like taken as like an extra metaphor. And yeah, there's a lot to dig in, but like just talking like what's raw on the page, I think the comic's really good at because like it has this cool art style where it's like sort of like very like line based with like strong like gradient colors. All the people's designs, they're quite angular. They've got like sharp chins and like sharp noses and stuff. And it lends itself to, and this is not going to be the first time I say this out of the comics that I've read this way, like it has this great setup of like a cool anime because it's a really cool high concept. And to skip over stuff that I'd probably deem spoilers, you have an attack basically that ends the first issue, and yeah, it's set up so cool because they have like watchtowers and everything, and there's clandestine intrigue in terms of what mistakes people have done in the past, and regret, and what happens to the people who get left behind, the people who have gigantic children and such. But like where we at the beginning, there's a lot of consideration on like the morality of it, especially earlier on. Well, midway through, there's an exchange where like a character is saying to Ember, who is the titular big girl currently. There he like a commander type character jokes to her that another character is worried that they're needlessly worried that they're going to be like King Kong style, and she replies, pretty sure King Kong, like the lady, the doctor, is one of the helicopters. And there's a lot of like seeds set in for what's to come. So I thought it was I thought it was quite a solid start, and they do like really cool things with. I always like a good color palette, especially like denoting different like actions as well as just like location. So in a few of pages where the characters are speaking to each other, you have like quite a dull, like scientific sort of pewterish gray. And then when we're seeing like an attack about to happen on the city, we get this nice sort of, it's a mix of, it's kind of dusk. It's more like, actually, it's the dusk that we're now seeing in California because of the wildfires. When everyone is putting those videos up of San Francisco, the sky being red, it kind of has that look. And yeah, it's really cool. Like it all works together to wordlessly give you an idea on the geography and location of different events happening. And I mean, this is a first issue, so a lot of it is set up, and especially set up in creating the world. And I think it does a great job of that, which is often sometimes can be a criticism that I offer sometimes, if I feel like I finished the first issue and it's like I've only had the cold open or something. But this issue, there's good action. There's a nice fight, and there's a good use of like interiority, if that is a word, where during big action scenes we do spend some time in like a character's head. And a lot of times with these type of stories, you can get a a thing where it's all about the cool smash and like boom explosions or stuff like this. But there is a big but subtle focus on the whole reason for this, the whole reason for the preserve and protecting humans, and isn't Man of Steel blowing up Metropolis. It is a case of like, yeah, I'm for all intents and purposes, speaking from Ember's point of view, a monster like these people, but like she's like a walking mech basically, but her job is to still catch the people who fall out of buildings and make sure they get home safe. It's quite cool. I'd recommend trying out issue 1 and seeing how you find it. I quite enjoyed it, and I know there's another issue out, and I'm going to check that out probably straight after this podcast. So yeah, that's my recommendation for Big Girls.
Awesome. Sounds like something I ought to check out. I need to give that.
Yeah, because I think that the monster design, I don't want to go too much into like the details, but the monster design is pretty cool as well. It's I was expecting sort of Godzilla-y rip-off style things, or like your basic kaiju. But yeah, this one, like the first thing that we see that is monstrous is different to what you're expecting, and the attack on the city is it's a cool idea, and I'm interested to see where they go in the future.
Awesome. The next book on our list is also you, Leon, and Rahul, you read this one too?
Yeah, this is the 7 Secrets that I picked up on Leon's recommendation. So, Leon, do you want to give the blurb?
Yeah. So up at the top, I'll just say that 7 Secrets is new comic published by Boom Studios. I believe it also has 2 issues out at the moment. I've only read the first one, but the writer is Tom Taylor. The art is done by Daniel D. Niku. I knew I was going to mess that up the first time. I apologize. Your art is amazing, but yes, Niku. I'm going to say that and have it wrong. And the colors are done by Walter Baiamonte, and it says with assistance by Katia Rinaldi, and the letters are done by Ed Dukeshire. And the basic concept of 7 Secrets is that the titular secrets are words, wonders, weapons, and worse, as described in the comic. And there's 7 of them, and they're kind of like a bunch of, in their own ways, because from what we see in the first issue, they are these unseen sort of Pandora's boxy type things that it's intonated that one, or maybe the use of all 7, sunk Atlantis or something. This is all like the first few pages when we're given the cool sort of setup of the world and the lore, and kind of like in an algorithm type way, as in the algorithm. It seems like you want to collect all of them Thanos style so you can do something, and to stop these falling into bad hands, an order was created, the Order of the 7, and they protect the 7 Secrets in a way that is connotated to be sort of scattered around like the planet, and they because they've caused so many different wars and stuff, so they split them up, and then each secret has like a sort of team of 2 on it, a keeper and a holder. And the team work together to protect and secure and to stop any threats against each secret. And they've all got like a mandate. It's a job for life, and kind of like a religious order, because your life is dedicated to the secrets. You're not allowed to sort of have a family and all that. And I don't know how much I want to say, but because it's the setup of the thing, I'm just going to say what it is, because it's only a few episodes in. But like the book is being, the story is being narrated by an unseen person called Casper, and what we see is an attack happen in London, because the old Brompton Street tube station is the actual main base of the Seven. So it's a cheap shot to get me, but like I always love stuff that's set in like London and places that I recognize and stuff. It's just cool, and this is cool because we have a great action scene with a one of the I believe the holder of the secret, who's part of a team of two, who is escaping from some sort of siege, and like the two are separated. You have Sigurd and Ava, and Ava is just this hyper competent badass who just like backflips around and has cool like transforming backpacks and rides a mean bike in between double-decker buses. And while like this is happening, we're getting backstory on what sort of led here, and yeah, it's middle story. I don't think it's really the crux of the thing, so I'm just going to say what it is. So like the unseen child, Casper, is the child of Sigurd and Ava, and so we're sort of seeing like how they got into the situation, what the decision was made by the council, and what ramifications this could possibly have. Well, in the present timeline, which is 15 years later from the stuff that we've seen, is this is when we get an attack, and Sigurd and Ava are separated. And for me, again, like I was saying before, like it has this cool like London-based anime type look. Like I've not really seen like London streets like look in this way, like the way they're colored, the way they're drawn, like the line work,
and the fact that it's contemporary. Because sometimes when you see London in anime or manga, it's like Victorian London or like I don't know, some sort of old school,
exactly, or
sepia tinted London,
or some like Hogwartsy based thing. And because I do love when stuff where the mystical or like the hyper sci-fi that is current day bumps up against like the present day and all the muggles walking around. I do love stuff like this where it's like just out of sight. Like we were talking about the Old Guard 2 episodes ago. That whole idea of like the contemporary running with the mystical at the same time, and I think that the frames are like really well composed, and while there is like kind of like minimal dialogue boxes, despite that we're getting like a voiceover, I think the images carry a lot as we see sort of the field of like fallen soldiers, everyone trying to protect or get their hands on one of the secrets. And I think the previously discussed action panels are pretty good. I like the character designs, especially Ava, who is like a woman of color, and she has like cool short hair, and she looks pretty badass. She looks mega like uber, just like the agent, the one who can get stuff done, and the one who can do the Deus Ex Machina and like go back when everyone else can't. And I think it's a pretty cool setup. The way I think about it, it's kind of like a prologue to like a big adventure, and like bouncing off what I was saying before in regards to big girls and how that overcomes an issue I sometimes have with issue ones. This does a different thing, but manages to overcome that issue at the same time. And like I think it's a setup that leaves you wanting in terms of you want to see what happens next, because everything is we're in the midst of things, and we're getting secrets revealed, and we're learning more and more about this world, and we don't just have like, it doesn't feel this way anyway. We don't just have exposition for like pages and pages and pages, like things. There's human feeling and emotion and sacrifice. There's a lot of like I don't know, like humanity in there, and I think that's because of the voiceover. But overall, I mean, I quite enjoyed it. What were your?
So I have a bit of a dilemma because I read the second issue, and so
sorry.
I'm. If you had read it, I would have talked about what happens in the second issue because like the listeners have the option to turn this off, but you don't. So I'm gonna not say too much about where the second issue goes, but what you said about issue one being the beginning of a great adventure, I think you're on the money on that. I think the second issue picks up in a really interesting way, and it develops these like characters that it kind of forces you to love in the first issue. So taking a step back, love the artwork. That's the first thing that drew me in. I like how clean, cartoony, like Western sort of anime, which if you're not careful, that can feel really either trite or feel like it's trying too hard to be something that isn't.
Feel
in its
hollow.
nature, but, yeah, a bit hollow. Whereas this really works. Like it reminds me of The Last Airbender a little bit, and The Last Airbender comics, which find that marriage between like East and West really well. This sort of has the same thing. I like how vibrant and colorful it is. I love a good MacGuffin. Like that's one of the things I love about anime and manga is like more than Western comics. I think they have this like you can stem the idea of a story based on just the MacGuffin, and in this one it's the seven secrets, but the point of these seven secrets isn't really the thing dragging you along. It's kind of like because they're represented by briefcases, so it kind of brings to mind like Pulp Fiction and like the fact that you never see what's in it. I hope that they don't really go too far into revealing what it is. But that's something like the fact that I'm not even caring about what's in the briefcase, but I can see the urgency of what they're trying to protect, and that's given in like a character sense and an action sense. It's given in the sacrifices made to protect what's in these, and like that is all very deftly explained in like 4 or 5 initial pages, and setting up like not just like the concept, but also because it's sort of in media res, or it's like saying the end of the story at the beginning, because you see this big event occur, and then it cuts back to Caspar beginning his narration about Eva and what's the guy's name? I've forgotten already.
Sigurd?
And Sigurd. But yeah, and then it goes on to like really make you care about these people and the things that they're going through and why they care so much about the doctrine they're a part of and why it's so important. Loved all of it. And then in the second issue, I really like how they keep going with that. Like it's definitely focused more on the characters and why this stuff is so important to them, and what's driving them, and then also how like our lead protagonists, how they grow in the second one is really interesting. Really keen to hear what you think about the second issue. Like this is one of those where I really think I'm going to keep going with it because it's grabbed me right from the start.
I'm pleased to hear that, because that sounds super promising. Because sometimes that can happen where issue one is playing all the right notes, and then issue two is like, this is what it's really about. And oftentimes the issue two is like, oh, they're going this path. It's not really what I was hoping to buy into, and you sort of bounce off. But I'm pleased that it's at least for that issue heading in a direction that interests me more.
Yeah, and because I think the thing that works is it's bouncing between this maybe it's tried to call it like East and West, but like this Western type of storytelling. But then the second issue kind of goes more into that anime style, like hero protagonist who is going through training and stuff. Like it's that sort of concept. And I'm really into that whole thing because that's always exciting. It's always like fun learning about the mechanisms of this world that you're been introduced to, and has all these strange concepts and strange MacGuffins and strange things that occur that's different to our world, and then seeing how somebody's like learning through that process. That's always loads of fun to me. It's got like that Naruto sort of vibe to it. And yeah, so I'm here for that. And what else? I just think I think it's very like you were saying, it's very vibrant. There, some of the action panels are really incredible. There's a couple of splash pages which I might be mixing up between the two different issues, but they have the same sort of concept. Like they've gone landscape, but then they've got the panels at like at different slants, like at different rectangles that are angled to each other. And it's I don't know. I really liked how dynamic the whole thing is.
Yeah, because sorry, continue.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because going off that point, I really do love the like the panel structure and the composition. So say there's a moment where there's like a sad phone call.
I was just looking at that.
Yeah, and it's so good. Like what you're saying about the sort of the pillars, because you get sort of like a extreme sort of widescreen panel at the top, like landscape, and then you get like 3 portrait, like towering panels, and they look good. The colors are great because you've got this cool sort of red playing off with the black, but then also you're getting like parts of people's faces, so it's carrying the motion. And then they do a cool thing which I really love, and I always forget to talk about it and stuff, is when people like color speech bubbles. I love it. It's my favorite. Like I love good use of like speech bubbles and lettering especially. And I don't know, like it's a page that's like 4 really iconic panels on it. Like they just look really good and they convey quite a lot. And it manages to like keep like the momentum of everything. And as you're like following them down, because the panels are sort of stair-stepping, it does bring you to the next action on the next page, which is I think it's just really, really well done, really well composed.
Yeah, so to that sequence you were mentioning earlier, where there's like a phone call happening, like that particular thing where it sells. So for a start, it's really moody, and like you get to see both halves of that conversation that's occurring, and like there's a lot of gravity to the moment and to the situation. And like what I love about this is that it gets to express this urgency and this heaviness, but not through like explaining itself too much. Like the words are quite slight, or that like it's not throwing lots of exposition, or like it's not got people telling you the urgency of what's happening. It's all expressed through like how bold the colors are, the contrast between the moodiness of one part of that conversation against the urgency and brightness of the other half of that conversation. And then it's immediately followed by like a really manga-esque sort of introduction to the main villain as well. And those 4 or 5 beats in succession work really well together. And I love when a comic can do that without having to use lots of words. And it's telling that sort of the main narration is woven into the dialogue for that whole thing. So it's not like the narration over the top isn't always explaining. It's in dialogue with the moment.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of reflecting back on what's happened. And like I think that's really difficult to do without coming across as like tortured. But this felt very natural, and yeah, I'm really into it. And you can tell that I'm a bit thrown off my game because I wasn't able to talk about the things that I wanted to talk about in issue number 2. But hopefully in the next podcast we can, if not issue number 3 by that point, then at least we can talk about number 2 together.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I mean, this is the problem. There's just so many great comics out there at the moment, and my time is finite, and I read so much comics, but I just don't have time to read them all.
Yeah, I'm really glad that Leon put me onto this one because it's very much my kind of thing.
I mean, I love comics, Ray. I love every kind of comic. I just want to read all of them, but I can't. I can't read every comic. I can't read every comic. So, moving on from there, it's another one that we were given a preview copy of. So this is another one for Vault Comics. This is one that I read. This is The Devil's Red Bride, and it's a Devil's Red Bride number 1. So I'll do credits up top for this. This is written by Sebastian Gerner. Art is by John Bivens. Colours by Iris Monaghan. Letters by Jeff Powell. Designed by Tim Daniel, and editing by Adrian Russell. And this is in shops October 14th, 2020. So get this added to your pre-order list. Up top with this, it's John Bivens of the awesome cult classic Creature Feature. And it's Sebastian Gerner of Scales and Scoundrels, and also the TKO Comics editor-in-chief. And this is Samurai Cinema Does Comics. So, if I get you the blurb for this book. 16th century Japan. The fates of warlords ebb and flow like tides of blood. None more than the Aragami clan, who follow their lord clad in the red devil mask into every battle. But when Lord Aragami succumbs to illness, his daughter, the fierce Ketsuko, hatches a plot to save her people no matter the cost. Years later, as Ketsuko wanders the heaving battlefields of her ruined homeland, she discovers a chance to avenge the terrible wrong done to her clan, even if it means stepping back onto a road steeped in slaughter. This is from writer Sebastian Gerner, Shirtless Bear Fighter, and Scales and Scoundrels, and artist John Bivens of Creature Feature and Spread. Comes a blood-drenched love letter to samurai fiction in a chilling tale of guilt, trauma, and vengeance. So, this is absolutely awesome. It is samurai noir dripping with atmosphere. It is the atmosphere just oozing from the deep shadows and the dark utilized on the page. And it just makes this book so claustrophobic and so intense and so unrelenting. It's just brilliant for that. And so when I say samurai cinema, by the way, I mean Akira Kurosawa, that type of stuff. And what is very specifically cool about this comic and the samurai story that this comic tells is that it is actually referencing and paying homage to Onabu Geisha, who are female martial artists, a type of female warrior that were belonging to Japanese nobility, and they engaged in battle alongside samurai men, mainly in times of need. And it's like these were like kind of like largely unsung or uncelebrated female heroes of feudal Japan, if you like, these female samurai. And what this book does is it kind of brings that into the light and to the forefront, which I think is kind of cool, with this lead character being this badass female Ronin. Examples of Onabu Geisha, you've got people such as Tomoe Gozen or Empress Jingu. And like these are like fierce legendary warriors in their own right. And it's really kind of cool. You can check all of that stuff out. There's tons of it about. It's just one of those things that never gets talked about a lot because, you know, history, right? And yeah, it's Bivens' art lends to this kind of like claustrophobic and intense and unrelenting thing that this book has going on, with like the depictions of the violence and the heavy battle scenes that do not shy away from the grotesque reality. It's muddy and it's bloody. The horrific side of this is different to his work on Cult Classic, but you can see that this is what he excels at and he brings it. So Japanese cinema movies, like as in Japanese chambara, sort of equivalent to westerns in Western cinema, and this is all of that. This is just all of that fantastic character of what you expect from samurai cinema or the works of people like Akira Kurosawa. The designs of these characters are awesome. This deadly female Ronin dressed head to toe in red, dispensing justice her way where she sees fit. Like this badass female martial artist. It's refreshing for this sort of story, and this book has me from page one. I caught the glint of its blade, and before I knew what had happened, I was tasting blood, holding my stomach together as the book strolled away into the forest. And it is aggressive with atmosphere. So yeah, I mean, like I opened the book and then it was that thing where there's a flash of white and then all of a sudden I'm just like holding my stomach, just like, and then there's like blood dripping from me, and then I drop to my knees, and then the comic sheaths its sword, and then I fall in half.
So are we talking like big geysers of blood here?
Kinda. More like it doesn't do the spray thing that you get in these types of stories a lot of. I mean, is that more of an anime thing? I don't know.
No, there's a lot of like a samurai film later that had
they
geysers.
Have the spray. Yeah. Yeah. It's less of the geysers and more of the like so far anyway, it's more like you'll get blood, but it's kind of like it drips out, and it doesn't, it's not spraying, it's kind of just like convulsing, vomiting forward, I guess is the best way to describe it. Bubbling up and vomiting forward rather than spraying out because an artery's been sliced. But yeah, aggressive with atmosphere. This book is amazing. Check it out. And that is going to be available on the 14th of October, and you should really, really get on this because it's something. It's just something that is very refreshing and very cool, and I wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone that enjoys samurai movies, samurai stories, because it is for you. Final book. So this is something actually that I have sort of mentioned excitement for on previous episodes leading up to today, actually. And this is something that ended up on this episode because one of you two picked it up, and shamefully not me. Because I mean, I've had it and I've got it and I've read it, and I'm going to talk about it today now, but this is only on the list because of one of you guys, which I'm kind of a little bit like, ashamed of, really.
I was surprised it wasn't.
Because I've been talking about it for weeks.
I was surprised it wasn't on the list when I looked. I was like, oh, this is out.
Yeah.
Because I had an October date, but that's the second issue.
Yeah. This is Lock and Key in Pale Battalions. And this book was released in August, end of August. So was it not last week, the week before? Like, was it final week of August, this?
I couldn't tell you.
Not sure, because this totally slipped by me, and I'm glad that you guys reminded me that it was out.
Yeah. I think this is like a symptom of the fact that we've had two long form discussions. August 26th, yeah, so final sort of end of August type thing. But yeah, this is like a symptom of the fact that we've had two long form discussions in between what we term chatty episodes. So we've kind of like skipped over this, so now we're going to give it the air it deserves. So this is Lock and Key in Pale Battalions Go, part 1 of 3. There's going to be 3 of these. This is the next chapter in the Lock and Key Golden Age sort of like collection of short stories, a lot of which we've already mentioned. I'd like to do like a big Lock and Key deep dive one day, actually, guys. What do you reckon?
I'd be game.
Yeah, I'd be happy to revisit all of that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, we could. It'd be something we'd have to do over several episodes. That's like a series in itself. But like, we could do Lock and Key, and then we can explore all the Golden Age stuff as well. So, yeah, this is Lock and Key in Pale Battalions 1. Leon, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I mean, I can give like an overview. I don't have a blurb or anything, but actually, this bit might help. Which war is it?
It's World War One.
It's definitely World War One. I thought so,
Yeah.
but I was unsure until like the last preview for the next bit. Okay, so like it's World War One, and young John Locke, he really wants to go to war. Like in his idea, in his mind, it's like we've got these keys that my parents keep keep me at arm's length with the more powerful keys, and it's like it's Uncle Ben. With great power comes great responsibility. It's like if we have all these powers and stuff, we should be going out there and joining the fray. And they're in up in Maine, right? So he the comic starts in Canada, where he is trying to enlist and pretending he's Canadian. He's as Canadian as what was it? It's hockey sticks and
hockey sticks and something. What was it?
Poutine.
Yeah, it wasn't poutine.
Hockey sticks and maple syrup.
There we go.
Yeah.
And like he's in the office trying to blag it. The guy's not really buying it, but you do get the feeling that if he was to do that task or whatever, like back then, especially like recruiting for those two wars, they're a bit slippery with letting people, underage people in. But then the door opens behind him, and instead of it being the street, it's a room, and an older man, his father, yanks him through, slams the door behind him, leaving the recruitment guy completely frazzled as to what happened. And I think that like the main backbone of this particular issue is like the tenacity, and like I was saying before about responsibility. John, he feels bad, and
that sneaky little shit.
Yeah. But like the thing is, he feels bad, but like whereas like some of the other lock and key things, the teens are like, isn't this cool? You can jump in each other's brains and do all this stuff. He actually is like, he has a purpose, like, and his purpose is to go out there and fight the good fight, go and fight in the Great War, because he sees not participating in it as a thing of shame, and he's kind of like frustrated with his father on like why won't they do anything about it, and
when they have the power to or the means to do so.
And through that, as Greg alluded to, this kid is smart. Like he just sets up like a level of dominance.
He's not smart. He's diabolical.
And to be diabolical, you need to be smart.
Yeah, he's connivingly clever.
Yeah.
He basically sets up like a house of cards or like a set of dominoes and puts everything into play, and it works really well. And through him doing so and trying to get into Belgium, we get to meet like the other members of his family, and we get a bit of backstory, and we see some of the keys that are in play. So you're like, obviously the anywhere keys there, teleporting people around. Got the Philosopherscope, which is how his dad found him. You've got the music box, which plays a vital part in this. We see a letter key, which is quite cool.
That's a new one, right?
I feel so. I don't remember it from what I've read.
Yeah, I feel like that's I feel like the letter keys are new.
Yeah,
like you get letters of like. I think that the premise with the letter key is that it takes stuff like errant thoughts of like and dreams and prints them.
I get the feeling it's a crossover with the other new Lock and Key book coming out, which crosses over with the Sandman. So I get that. I think it's the stories from the Dreaming, because I think it's Lucian and Abel that she receives letters from, and they were the keepers of the dream or something like that, if I remember Sandman correctly, like their characters.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is leading into Hell and Gone.
I guess so, yeah. Because one of the books she receives is like an unwritten story by Mark Twain and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hell and Gone will be the next sort of like Golden Age books, which will be the ones where they cross Lock and Key with the Sandman universe, which sounds brutally amazing. Like I can't think of anything better, but there we go. I'm excited for that.
And like I think what we have here is like Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez doing their thing, because it I don't know, it's like something like a comfort feeling that I have anytime these either the one shots or the short comics come out since we've finished the whole run. It's like, oh, I'm spending like some time back at Key House and the shenanigans that have happened in the past, and there's no big overarching thing happening. We're just spending some time with these people and seeing how they interacted with the keys, and seeing really how like their character and the issues that they have and the world around them affects how they use the keys. And it is interesting because a level of it makes me think about what will happen in the like super future when people look back and think about how people at the turn of this century used like the various things we use, like social media or whatever, like if there was an archive. Like it is interesting to see like how these people like wield their power, because I mean this secret was kept for quite a long time, and these keys can do all manner of wild stuff. So it is cool to see to just be back in this world, and you've got like the very like Hillian sort of deadpan-y humor. You've got like the really nice onomatopoeia sounds with interactions with things, and you've got like, you don't have too much of it in this issue, but you've still got a lot of the great sort of geography and sort of landmarking that Rodriguez is great at, and like JPhoto's colors they just have that sort of there's a nice feeling to it. It's hard to explain because whereas like the typical thing that I would say vibrant or whatever that I overuse, usually it just means like neon or it's blossoming in the face with like some sort of fuchsia. But like with this, like the colors are vibrant, but they're I wouldn't say they're muted. They just have a more like gradient, like realistic feeling. Like there's a nice warmth to them, and especially like the backgrounds, they really like foreground the key characters really well, and they do well to set you in a place and a location and a time without distraction, but you don't feel lost. Like, where the hell are these now? Like, the what? They're in the middle of a field. You can garner from where it looks and how it's designed, where everyone is and where they are in the grounds of Key House. And we do even get a bit more cave shenanigans, and it's great. Like I love looking at the panels with Lock and Key.
Yeah, there's something really comforting about Rodriguez's art, isn't there? Like maybe it's just familiarity because we loved the original like run so much, but also just like the way he draws faces and like how scraggly he makes the world look. It looks very natural and like.
And like,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say like the repetition of panels we get. Like I just love that usage where you get like 3 panels in a row and it's a character doing something in some way, or like and the action will be shown between 2 panels, and the panels are almost exactly the same apart from the action the character's done and the effect that action has had in the location they were in.
Yeah, so I get the feeling you're talking about the scene where Johnny sat on a fence outside, which is what I've just been looking at, possibly, or you're talking about the intro where he's talking to the enlistment guy. But talking about the bit where Johnny sat on the fence, like for me, the touchstone for that is like Lord of the Rings, where it's got a very verdant feel to it, and it just feels really like coming back home, and it just feels like lovely and warm. But then the twist on this concept is like Johnny sat there waiting for his mum to come up, and you think they're just having a natural like conversation where he's done something wrong and he's waiting to be told off. But then it turns out he's waiting to enact just the next step in his devious plan. And like, I love those kind of things where you think one thing is happening, but then another's happening. Similarly to Seven Secrets, I like stories which have like MacGuffins and concepts. And like Lock and Key is a story all about concepts manifested, because like each key has a different radical thing that it can do. And like some of the best moments in those stories were where you discover the mechanism of this thing, and then you discover the mechanism of another key, and then you realize through the plot and through the characters like how those things can interact with each other. And what I love about this one specific issue is Johnny's like devious conniving plan. And to make a slight tangent, like we've been playing Among Us recently, and I've learned that lying is easy, but lying with purpose is really hard. And like having this layer, like knowing what you're lying about and what it adds to the narrative that you're spinning is really difficult, which is why I realized like Johnny's cleverer than I am, because I could never pull this off. But he has this like multi-step process that he enacts and like screws over multiple members of his family, and like it's just interesting watching that play out, and also the mechanisms of the keys that he's using and understanding well enough to pull it off. Like all of that is just beautiful. I love it.
Can I just go off on a wild tangent?
Sure.
Ever so slightly, because I've just, for some reason, I don't know why, it just popped in there. I'm thinking about the goose from Untitled Goose Game having access to the keys.
I would play that game.
And like, imagine like Untitled Goose Game, but a key house add-on where you have to like mess with people using the keys.
That'd be amazing. Like someone just needs to make that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, what I also wanted to bring up actually is like because like Gabriel Rodriguez, the artist, he has like a sense of space and a sense of like object placement and person placement when you see the way he draws rooms and the way he draws people in rooms. In some of like you've got panels that almost take on a plan view, and it's like everything works from different angles, and everything's in the right place, and everything is always like meticulously thought out and placed specifically. Everything has a place, and everything from it doesn't matter what angle you're looking at the room from, everything's where it should be. There's no the continuity there is perfect with placement of people, objects in space and whatever within the panels. And like, this is something I think we've probably brought up a few times on the cast, but like his background in architecture, which gives him that kind of like unique skill, I guess, with things like that, and also the way he draws the building and the way he plans the building out and the way rooms are constructed and everything else. It's just it's gorgeous. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things, actually, some Lock and Key news to go with this, because Lock and Key is getting like an omnibus edition, if you like, in October. The Key House the Key House Compendium, which is going to be like 900-page hardcover thing, which sounds pretty cool.
Wow.
If you've not read Lock and Key yet and you don't already own Lock and Key like I do, then that's what you should buy.
900 pages and one. That just sounds annoying to read.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it what you should buy? You need like a lectern to read that on.
It's a tome.
Yeah. You need to like live in a church and put it up on the...
I imagine it like the Church of Comics.
That's just Greg's house, right? You need to get one of these. I want to see in your attic like a lectern that you can read your 900-page tome of Lock and Key on.
It's just reading omnibus editions upright like I'm giving a sermon.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but yeah, and so this I was gonna, but you've already brought it up actually, because we've already talked about it. But like the Sandman universe crossover, Hell and Gone, which gets an issue 0 in October, which I'm looking forward to. Now, issue 0 just basically collects a couple of already printed stories, which are kind of like an introduction to the Key Lock and Key universe and the Sandman universe, and also shows the point where the two kind of intersect, because it reprints. If I can find the information I found, so this is like word on the street stuff. So Hell and Gone 0 will reprint Open the Moon, which is like Chamberlain Lock with the Moon Key. It sort of like goes almost directly into the events of the Hell and Gone series, with it reprints Sandman Seasons of Mist Chapter 1 issue 22 as well, and it's like a refresher for anyone who's unfamiliar with either series, and it kind of like is where the two meet and join together, which I think is probably, like you were saying about the letter key, that might be where that comes in.
Okay.
I mean, like, we should do a Sandman deep dive one day as well.
So many deep... Sandman will take us forever to get through.
Yeah, but it's amazing.
It is
it's
incredible.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Get your Cure records out. So I guess does that bring us to a finish? Comics wise, I think it does, doesn't it?
I would just add that Lock and Key in Pale Battalions, you said it's going to be 1 to 3, and it's written by Joe Hill, art done by Gabriel Rodriguez, colours done by J Photos, and letters done by Sean Lee, and that's out on what's it called? What's the publisher again for that one? IDW. I don't read that much IDW stuff these days. And do you know how hard it is to not say Image?
Especially when like the major, like there was a point where we were pretty much going on to becoming the Image cast, wasn't there? Like we had like
these days for me it feels like Boom Studios are putting out everything that I like. But IDW.
Yeah, so you should go check that out in Pale Battalions Go. So on to the pull list. So we've got, for the 30th of the 9th, this is 30th of September, we've got Batman 3 Jokers number 2. We have got X Factor number 4, which is going to be the next chapter in X of Swords, following on from X of Swords creation. This is X of Swords chapter 2, because this kind of expands across all the books. We've got Batman, the Joker Warzone #1, which is kind of like a thing that spins out of the Joker War stuff that's going on in the main Batman stuff right now. We've got the Department of Truth #1, which is an interesting little thing from Image Comics that I'm gonna blast through just the premise quickly, because this is kind of different. So Cole Turner has studied conspiracy theories all his life, but he isn't prepared for what happens when he discovers that all of them are true. From the JFK assassination to flat earth theory and reptilian shapeshifters, one organization has been covering them up for generations. What is the deep, dark secret behind the Department of Truth? And this is James Tynion of the Batman line, and this is Martin Simmons as the artist. And I think that kind of sounds interesting. It's like, what if everything that people believe, like what if all these ridiculous things that people believe are actually real? Another X-Men book, Giant Size X-Men Tribute to Wine and Cockrum, which I'm down for. X-Ray Robot #2, which I've been waiting for since lockdown hit and killed comics for a while. And we had I had the first issue of X-Ray Robot, and I was just like, need me some Allred, please. Where's the rest of my Allred? And then I had to wait. We talked about issue 1 on a previous episode, but now we've got X-Ray Robots issue 2 coming this week, so I'm pretty happy for that. And also TMNT, the best of Raphael, which is a collection of reprinted Raphael stories from various points in TMNT history across different publishers and things, which is basically stories that showcase the ever surly Raphael, and it's almost 100 pages long, and it's going to be great. So if you want kind of some TMNT flavor, check that out, because that's going to be cool. Ray?
Yeah, just a couple. That Texas Blood #4. Reason I bring this up is we talked about #1 in our episode number 91 back in July, and I distinctly remember saying, I really want to carry this on, and then it completely fell out of my head. So I'm a reminder for myself and everyone else to catch up on to #4. And then also trade paperback #3 for the Avant-Gardes, which is something I brought up a while back. It's a boombox comic about kids playing basketball. It's just cute fun, and it's an excuse for me to catch up on that as well.
7/10. We're into October now. 7 days into Inktober. If I manage to keep it up, which I'm hoping I will this year. Batman 100, which Joker has a bat suit. He's driving around in a ridiculous purple stretch Hummer. He's stolen all of Bruce's money, and he's just generally being a dick. So this, as the Joker is wont to do. So this is Joker War. This is what's going on in the Batman comics currently. But yeah, Batman 100. I sent you guys a picture of the Joker batsuit, actually, didn't I?
Yes.
On WhatsApp, yeah. I don't know if you looked at it.
I know.
I know Marv looked at it because I sent it Marv as well. But yeah, it's like Joker's basically trying to fully pervert everything that is the idea and concept of Batman and what Batman means to Gotham in this whole story, Joker War, which I will probably talk about at some length at another time, because right now is not the time. So then we've got Wolverine #6, X-Force #13, and Marauders #13, which are the next 3 chapters in X of Swords, because they're just doing this across the whole line. So it begins with Marauders #13, which is going to be X of... Oh, hold on. Which way around I'm going? Yeah, X of Swords. So you start with X of Swords Chapter 3, which is Wolverine, and then we go to X of Swords Chapter 4, which is going to be X-Force, and then Marauders will be X of Swords Chapter 5. So yeah, you've got to start buying all the X books. So go figure. And then Hellions #5 will be the next X of Swords chapter. So I think X of Swords. Wait. Oh no, this is just getting confusing now. Forget that. Forget what I just said that. Just buy them. Buy them and read them. There's always, with these events, that you've always got the checklist in the back of the book and everything, so you don't miss out on anything, so you know what to ask your LCS for. They're always very helpful in that way as well. If you tell them, I always find this, that if I tell them I want a specific event and all tie-ins, they'll do it. Next thing, we've got the Legend of the Swamp Thing Halloween Spectacular. Enough said. Do I need to say any more about why that's on my pull list? Do I really? We've got Lock and Key Impale Battalions Go #2 and Norse Mythology #1, which is the newest Neil Gaiman thing, where Neil Gaiman just breathes new life into Norse stories by doing his thing. And yeah, he just goes from like start to finish through Norse mythology with artist Craig Russell, P. Craig Russell. And yeah, it's something pretty cool looking. And that is Dark Horse. So yeah, there you go. That has been Ace Comicals episode number 97. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com, which is kind of the hub for everything we do. And there you can find links to all our various other outlets, such as Twitter, where we are Ace Comicals and the most active. And you can find us to listen to us anywhere you can find podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Castro, etc., iTunes. You can find me on Twitter under @Batto. That's BATTOU. You can message us. You can DM us on Twitter. You can get involved in the conversation at us. Tell us what you've been reading. Send us questions. You can send us if you are so inclined to do so. If you like what you hear, you can send us a coffee on Ko-fi and help to keep the lights on here at Ace Comicals. Ray, where can we find you?
On Twitter at Monkeh, so that's MOONKEH.
And Leon, where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter at Leon Everett.
Yeah, so you can also send us an email at acecomicals@gmail.com if you like to do long form letters. So yeah, get in touch with us. Tell us what you think about what we've been reading. Get your thoughts in. Join the conversation. That has been Ace Comicals episode number 97. Over and out.